Well, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans. Happy Thursday evening, folks, and welcome into the 24-hour, the 24/7, 365 comprehensive home of the WNBA and your two-time WNBA champion, Los Angeles Sparks. Welcome in, folks, to Sparks 365 as we are winding down training camp, folks, here on May 8th, 2014. Almost a week away from the start of the 2014 WNBA season. Alongside Chris Mancy from the Inner Heart Studios up in Anaheim, California. Cal McClure joining you folks here from Studio 171 in San Diego. Chris, good evening. How's it hanging on this Thursday as we head into the weekend? How's it going?
Hanging here, just shaking my head because I was facing my girl and the Wi-Fi and internet was being stupid over here.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed, Chris, that it doesn't lay out on us tonight here during the network, folks. And coming up, folks, tonight, 9 o'clock, 9:30. 10 o'clock, folks, the normal three-show cycle here until next Friday when we debut all of our new programs next week. But again, we'll have Sparks 265, Sparks Fam, and of course, tonight at 10 o'clock here this evening. All right, Chris, let's dive into some of these opening headline tip-offs, these opening tip-off headlines here, man. There's a lot going on across the WNBA. Of course, Chris, we know about the preseason home game on May 10th, but Chris, above all, the best news of the whole training camp so far. The queen of the WNBA is back in Los Angeles, the reigning 2013 WNBA Most Valuable Player, Chris. Ace 3, CP3, Candace Parker, back in town finally after her long overseas commitment, Chris, to the Ekaterinburg Basketball Club. Also back in town, Chris, is Christy Tolliver back in town, as is Jantel Lavender. So, Chris, those remaining puzzle pieces, Chris, that are going to be vital to the Sparks' 2014 hopes and dreams of a WNBA championship are back in LA, man. Now that everyone's back, man, how pumped are you getting ready for next Friday in Seattle?
I'm so freaking pumped up. That's why I'm also wearing, since someone's back, Candace Parker, that's why I'm wearing her jersey, and it's also irony what's about this jersey.
Chris, of course, when I wake up this morning and I check my Twitter feed and see what's going on, and of course, when you see the photo of Candace being back in Los Angeles, you just go like this. You just go like this and fist pump and shake. And speaking of the devil, folks, no surprise, folks, on Twitter saying Encore Black showing, love and basketball, #fave movie, folks. You can find out more about Candace's favorite movies on CandaceParker.com. But Chris, speaking of the devil, of the reigning MVP, of course, man, you know, with her coming back to Los Angeles today, you know, along with KT and along with Tolliver and J-Lab, of course, Chris, you know, everyone, you know, as soon as they see the face of Candace Parker wearing the LA shoot-around shirt, man, you know, everyone says, okay, is this the year the Sparks finally do it, man? Because if you're good at math, Chris, like I am not, you know what, it's been 12 years since the Sparks last won a championship in 2002 in the King of New York. So, Chris, I guess the age-old question, Chris, for Candace Parker going into her 7th year, Chris, is this the year that she finally wins a championship? And what do you think right now?
I think, yeah, this is the time she's going to win a championship since what has gone on during the offseason about didn't know if we're going to fold or what, and this is her time to win the championship this season.
Chris, the only good part about having Candace back in LA is I don't have to be up until 2 o'clock in the morning tweeting to her about random nonsense. I'm changed over in Ekaterinburg. So now she's back on our same page here. Now we can just tweet at the right time and not think about being an hour ahead in another part of the world. But Chris, to answer the question, is this the year? Chris, I think every year has been the year. They just have been denied in the postseason. It's either been denied in the postseason, Chris, or she's been injured. You know, shoulder surgery, torn meniscus, a couple of hiccups in the road there. But Chris, I think so far, man, I would agree, and I think every fan base would agree on Candace Parker. You know, whether they like her or not, which I think Chris, about 3/4 of the league does like her because she's a good player, is they would agree, Chris, that I think all 7 years, or at least 6 of the 7 years going into the 7th year, Chris, they've all been, this is the year. But it's either been, you know, her injury health, Chris, you know, and of course, what doesn't help Chris with Candace, of course, is her first season after rookie year, Chris, pregnant with her daughter, then her shoulder injury, and then, of course, her injured meniscus was another thing as well. So, I mean, that was one deal, Chris. So, I mean, the injuries, Chris, are going to happen. You know, maternity leave or pregnancy will happen sometimes, Chris, depending on, you know, the situation. But, Chris, I think everyone across the league, players, coaches, executives, GMs, analysts, other fans, Chris, would agree that I think every year for Candace Parker has been her chance. It's been something, either her pregnancy, injuries which occur, Chris, or just being denied by a better team in the postseason, I think. Do you agree?
Yep, I agree.
And Chris, you know, I'm not, you know, as much as I, Chris, would love to see the Sparks win, I'm not counting out the Lynx or counting out the Mercury because they're two teams, Chris, plus Chicago and Atlanta, Chris. I mean, there's more teams, Chris, than just LA that are worthy of the championship. And Chris, I know that we're thinking PMA here about the Sparks winning, Chris, but would you be at all surprised, man, if the Lynx won the championship again this year?
Yep, I won't be surprised if it happens. And I hope it probably be. Well, I probably think it'll probably be Sparks and Minnesota Lynx in the Western Conference Finals.
I mean, Chris, like I just told our man Rashad Jackson on Twitter today, gave me a follow back and said, hey, you know, it's going to be an awesome season, and I'm hoping for a LA and Minnesota conference final, man, because, I mean, Chris, you know that, I mean, we know we say it a lot, man, but I welcome everything with open arms, and we're going to wish everyone out there the best of luck with the season, regardless if you're for the Sparks, the Mercury, or the worst teams in the conference. Best of luck to everyone. We hope you guys enjoy the 2014 season. Take us with the players that are back in camp. We know about the MVP, Parker, coming back, Chris, and of course, big shot, Chrissy Tolliver is also back, Chris, from Moscow, Russia. She posted her IG photo today, earlier this morning, of her boarding pass back to LA from Moscow. Chris, you know what? It was a tale of two seasons for KT. It was dynamite regular season, Chris, and then the one in posters. The missing person warrants, Chris, came out across South Figueroa Street, man, because you couldn't find her from the three-point line in the playoffs against the Mercury, Chris. I mean, what do you think happened, though, to KT? I mean, was it more so mentally in the postseason, or was it teams having a better strategy to guard her, I think, from the three-point line? What do you make of it?
I think probably mentally, but I think, like you said, probably they guarded from the three-point line because she's like good from the three-point line.
I mean, Chris, you know, the postseason is a different season. It's not an extension of the regular season, man. It's a whole new season. Everyone starts 0-0, and you got 3 chances or 2 chances to win 3 games. Or in the finals, man, you got 3 chances to win 5 games. So it totally changes, man. And the Sparks, I believe, Chris, I think if I'm right here, Chris, I think they hit 1 3-pointer the whole series, I think, last year with Phoenix, I want to say. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Because I remember once game they didn't even make a 3.
I mean, Chris, if you're not going to go very far in the postseason if you can't hit 3-pointers, and I think that's one issue that will be addressed, I think, during training camp. So, of course, Chris, now we have Parker back, Tolliver back, and, of course, Chris, tall body off the bench, Jantel Lavender also back from her trip over in Poland. She flew in, I believe, today as well. She checked in with NECA today on the Sparks Twitter handle, Chris. Again, man, we know about how good she played overseas. But again, man, it's more so, again, bringing the overseas game and translating those numbers and figures and statistical analysis to Los Angeles. Does that happen, or do you think it'll take her a few games to get back on track, perhaps?
I think probably take a few games to get back on track, but I think J-Lab will bring that numbers to LA.
So again, folks, we are happy to report, folks, that the MVP, Candace Parker, Christy Tolliver, and Jantel Lavender have all arrived safely back home in Los Angeles, and we're at camp today. We'll see them sometime soon. Okay, Chris, to the bigger news of the day for the Sparks. The Sparks and Time Warner Cable have announced the 2014 Sparks programming schedule. The Sparks announced the programming and broadcasting for the 2014 Sparks season. The network, in addition to televising 25 live games, will provide fans with in-depth coverage of the Sparks all season long, led by pre- and post-game shows and original programming, including the backstage, behind-the-scenes documentary series, Backstage Sparks, and Time Warner Cable also televised the 25 games as well. Chris, before we move on here, man, we're going to talk about the about WNBA television schedules too, just to let you know, folks. We're going to come up at 10 when we talk about WNBA on television as well tonight. Chris, Leading the Sparks broadcast team this season, unfortunately, Chris, we do have to report about this man, is it is no longer going to be the tenured vet Larry Burnett and Tracy Warren. Chris, they both handed their walking gate a few days ago, Chris. I was very surprised and caught off guard that the Sparks would not bring back Larry Burnett, Chris, because he said they wanted to go a new direction and bring in a new broadcast team, Chris. You have to respect their decision. Hopefully Larry, Chris, finds a job somewhere in the WNBA or with the Sparks in some fashion. But it's going to be tough to not hear Larry Burnett's voice on TWC Sportsnet and all this season.
Yep, agreed, but we'll still remember that call when he made that call of Chrissy Tolliver's three-point buzzer beater.
Yeah, the buzzer beater in 2012 to beat Tulsa, which lives on forever, as does him being a part of the first two teams. And folks, the reconfigured broadcast team will feature five-time Emmy Award winner and versatile sports veteran and a good friend of mine, Jim Watson, who will call the sports game. Jim has 20 years of experience in sports television as part of the Dodgers, Galaxy, the Olympics, and numerous college sports. Joining Jim in the broadcast booth is retired NBA player Jaron Collins and veterans women's basketball commentator Mary Murphy as analyst. Collins played 11 years in the NBA and is also a scout for the Clippers and a basketball analyst for several national and regional networks. His twin brother Jason currently plays for the Nets and was the first openly gay athlete to come out in the NBA. He will be the Sparks home game color announcer, while Mary Murphy will join Watson for all the Sparks road games. Murphy has also called college and WNBA games for networks and spent 11 years as the women's basketball coach at Northwestern, where she also played as a 2-year captain. And also joining the broadcast team will be the second-year veteran Kelly Tennant as the Sparks sideline reporter. And Chris, also with Time Warner Cable Deportes during the games, Ricardo Stellas and Francisco X Rivera will call the games on Time Warner Cable Deportes. Of course, Chris, the action begins with Access Sports and Sparks. Time Warner Cable Sports' live pregame and postgame show will feature analysis, highlights, and interviews with in-studio analysts Chris McGee from The Price is Right, Jamie Maggio, and Dave Miller angle the program with contributions on site from Kelly Tennant and Sparks home games. Pre-game Access Sportsnet will begin a half hour before game time. The analysts will be live in studio for the halftime show and live post-game for an hour after the final buzzer. And on non-game nights, the live show of Access Sportsnet will provide regular coverage along with the Galaxy and the Lakers. Of course, folks, the best show out there on Sportsnet, the periodic episodes of Backstage Sparks will air during the season, taking fans behind the scenes of the team on and off the court. It'll debut, folks, on none other than Sunday, May 18th at 5 p.m. prior to the network's coverage of the Sparks home opener and the feature a backstage behind-the-scenes look at training camp and Sparks Media Day. Also, retelecast of the games, enhanced with social media interaction and bonus commentary will air on Encore/Sparks Compacto. And of course, folks, to go back in the archives, Timeless Sparks will showcase classic Sparks games. Probably will begin with the Sparks getting started staying in the 01 WNBA final. So, Chris, out of all that junk I just read, man, what are you more pumped for here, man? I mean, the broadcasting sounds good. You have a mixture of veterans that have called basketball games, that know what they're talking about, at least not just a bunch of Ostermeyer baloney in my refrigerator talking WNBA basketball like we kind of are sometimes. Of course, yeah, we have all the great shows with Sportsnet, Backstage Sparks, the Encore Plus, and of course, Chris, Timeless Sparks. We can go back and revisit all those good games, all the way back to 97 million, all the way until Rookie of Ramps, man. You ready for Time Warner Cable Sportsnet's coverage of the Sparks this season, man, or what?
Yep, I'm just can't wait for Access Sportsnet.
So again, folks, the schedule for the TV schedule, folks, is out. 25 games are on television this year, folks. So again, 25 of your 34 Sparks games are on Time Warner Cable Sports, your comprehensive home of the Sparks, Galaxy, and 16-time champion Los Angeles Lakers. Chris, some more headlines here real quick before we move over to the WNBA spectrum on the side of the story here. Not much else occurring, man. Again, folks, tonight at 10 o'clock, we're going to actually go in and investigate the WNBA television schedule, folks, because we are seeing reports, folks, of some teams not even showing games on television or showing very few games on TV. We'll talk about that, folks, at 10 o'clock tonight. By the way, folks, the current news here, by the way, in the WNBA, Only final score tonight, folks, from the preseason scoreboard. The Sun pounded the Liberty 60-44 today. Shania Gumake in her first game led the way with 16 points as well. But Chris, we had some big news yesterday, though. On the waiver wire yesterday, folks, the Atlanta Dream acquired four-time All-Star Swin Cash in a trade with the Chicago Sky. The WNBA Atlanta Dream announced that it has acquired four-time All-Star Swin Cash from the Chicago Sky in a trade that will send guard and former SDSU Aztec Courtney Clements to Chicago. The teams also swapped draft picks with Atlanta receiving the Sky's third-round selection in 2015, while the Sky get Atlanta's second-round pick in the same draft. Cash enters her 13th season in the league and is just one of two players to accumulate 4,500 points, 2,000 rebounds, and 1,000 assists. The two-time Olympic gold medalist ranks 15th in the WNBA all-time in scoring, 11th in rebounds, and 16th in assists, and 19th in blocks. Cash, who was an All-American at UConn, helped the Huskies win a pair of national titles in 2000 and 2002 as the overall number 2 pick of the 2002 draft by the now defunct Detroit Shock. They earned second-team All-WNBA honors in 2003 and 2004 and helped the Shock win its first title in 2003 over LA and a second title in 2006. Her first two appearances in the All-Star game were also with the Shock in 2003 and 2005. He was then dealt to the Storm in 2008 and was named the WNBA All-Star team in 2008, 2009, 2011, winning game MVP honors both times. She won a third WNBA title in 2015 when the Storm beat Atlanta in the WNBA Finals and was a All-WNBA Defensive Second Team honoree in 2011. So, Chris, I know one of my friends named Jason Baza on Facebook was the biggest one to see his favorite player, Chris, get dealt to Atlanta, man. But, Chris, what is Atlanta getting here in Swin Cash? What you're getting here, at least, is championship mentality, a veteran of the league for the past few seasons, and also a great scorer, rebounder, Chris, and also a great defensive mind, man. Do you think Atlanta scored here, or did both teams score getting in the trade, Chris? Who do you think won this trade, the Sky and/or Atlanta?
I think Atlanta won the trade since she's a great player. She's an all-star, four-time all-star, and I think Atlanta won the deal.
Chris, I mean, looking at the numbers again, man, the four-time all-star, three-time champion, all the accolades, man, is definitely something that is, something that is good to see, Chris. And I think this move just makes the Dream a lot better, if you ask me. I mean, the way you see it, man, with Angel McCoughtry, Erica DeSouza, Ruth Riley, a few other players on the team, Chris. Now you're bringing Swin Cashman to be either a 4 or 3, perhaps, off the bench or a starter somewhere. I mean, hey, you might as well put Chicago and Atlanta in the conference finals and see, duke it out and see who wins that conference final to go to the WNBA finals, Chris. Chris, do you think, though, perhaps this conference title is going to come down to Atlanta or Chicago winning it? Because I still think, Chris, Atlanta still has an edge over the Sky by a little small margin because I think the Sky's a bit too inexperienced still because of Elena Del Don. This is her team now, as this was Swin Cash's team for a few years with the Sky. So do you think Atlanta still wins the Eastern Conference Division championship, or do you still think Chicago has a chance?
I think now getting Swin Cash, I think that just put Atlanta over the top.
I think it did, but then again, Chris, Chicago can go out there and make a big move somewhere. But I think, Chris, what Shorty Mama 24 told us a while back, I think, was Cash I think Swin was a bit upset because I believe Pokey Chapman, Chris, who's also GM and head coach of the Sky, I believe what I caught, Chris, was they wanted to give her he wanted a max deal, the 3-year max deal contract, and they took it off the table, Chris. So I think there was some animosity, I think, from Swin towards the Sky, and actually, Chris, who could blame her? Because if you want to get paid, you got to ask for it, and I think she's definitely worth the 3-year gamble.
Yep, agree.
So again, folks, Swin Cash dealt to the Atlanta Dream in exchange for Courtney Clements. That trade happened yesterday. We'll recap Chris, we're going to recap the lone preseason kill tonight in the WNBA. Connecticut pounds New York 60-44 tonight at MSG, Chris, for the Sun. Main players tonight, Chris, Shania Gumake, 16 points, Allison Hightower, 10 points. And also normally tonight, not a lot else occurring. And for the Liberty, Chris, who pulled only down the preseason, Tilt Essence Carson, 11 points, DMJ, 6 points. And also today, Christina Charles not with the team right now to overseas commitments. Megan Simmons, Chris, no points, only took 1 shot in the game today in her first start of the season. Chris, boy, I mean, I don't know if Connecticut got that much better, Chris, or New York just is that bad. But I know it's a man, but still, though, a lopsided affair like that, man, in the preseason is not going to go well with New York, I think, especially with Bill Lambier as well as he's GM and head coach of that club, I think.
Yep, agreed.
So again, folks, only game tonight, Sun destroy the Liberty, 16-44. Chris, 2 games tomorrow on the preseason schedule. We'll have Indiana at Chicago at 3 o'clock, and then also tomorrow, Chris, we'll have a rematch of the 13 conference finals in the West, Chris. Phoenix at Minnesota, Target Center tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m. We'll have a recap of the game for you folks tomorrow night at 9. Tomorrow night, folks, at 10 o'clock tomorrow night. We're going to be going an hour late tomorrow night because I have family coming over to my house tomorrow night, so we'll have Sparks 265 at 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Chris, also today, I was cruising on Twitter, Chris, and of course, like I said, man, I know that we welcome everyone with open arms here, and I saw from the Mercury today, Chris, on Twitter, they landed safely today in Orlando for the preseason tournament that is happening tomorrow and Saturday in Orlando. Those two games are going to be played in the weekend preseason tournament is again tomorrow and Saturday, folks, down there at the HP Fieldhouse at the ESPN Wide World of Sports in Orlando, Florida. So, Chris, again, a 4-team tournament here. Chicago, Minnesota, Phoenix involved here, man. I'll tell you what, man, this is a great way to sort of get the operating as a preseason tournament, Chris. Now, I wonder, though, here, man, will this tournament at all perhaps maybe be broadcast on ESPN? Because, hey, this is at the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex down there in Orlando.
Yes, it probably will be.
We'll see what happens, folks. But again, the first of 4 games we played. The first game of the up and coming the preseason tournament between the Sky, Fever, Mercury, and Lynx will be tomorrow at 3 o'clock and 5:30 down there in Orlando, Florida. Chris, I believe we had news today from Shorty Mama 24 on Twitter, Chris, that the Sparks had released 2 more players, Chris. I believe that chops down the training camp roster, I want to say, down to 14, Chris. So, again, 2 players are going to have to say, no, hey, goodbye, following these next 2 preseason games. You know, we don't know really, man, who's going to stay here. We have seen that from talk, Chris, them possibly getting rid of Abdi. Don't really know about that much, Chris. But, you know, like we talked about yesterday morning, yes, folks, yesterday morning on Sparks AM, Chris, this is your last chance to impress the coaching staff to make this franchise's roster, Chris. I mean, you know, Chris, I don't know if you've been through cuts like I have during high school sports, man. I'll tell you what, though, when I was going through that time, man, where I was playing sports and going through the cut period, man, you were scared to death. You were very, very nervous, very, very uptight, very stressed, very scared, Chris, because, you know, your shot at playing the sports you played for your whole life, or Chris, you know, a shot at a college scholarship, a shot at a pro, all relies on how well you perform during training camp. So, how do you think Chris is right now, knowing that they might, you know, see their name with a Sharpie line through it probably May 15th?
Some of the players are very nervous right now, knowing if they're going to be cut or stay with the team, and probably they're very nervous.
I mean, Chris, trust me, I will admit here 100%, man, that the cut phase of sports is by far the most nerve-wracking time that you can go through. I will kind of bank on this for a bit here, folks. I was cut once my freshman year in high school from my baseball team because apparently I didn't have the range because the head coach was a complete quack and a complete idiot. I knew the guy when I was 5 years old. He completely jerked me when I got up to high school. That's why I moved schools, Chris. You know, I transferred schools because I didn't like all those, you know, all that stuff that was going on because of infighting, you know, and stuff like that. When I go over to my new school, Kearney High School down here, I saw Mary Chris. I knew I had a small team, Chris, but I was nerve-wracked because I was the new kid on the block, the new kid on the roster, new kid in the school. How I was going to be treated by the team. But trust me, the cut period is a nerve-wracking, just a very uptight and a very, very tense week that you have to go through to play. They only take the best of the best, Chris, and in this case, the best of the best will make the 18th roster, the 18th year roster for the Sparks in the WNBA season, Chris, and we'll see what happens, I guess, come probably next Thursday.
Yep. Well, no, probably next Thursday.
Chris, anything you want to get to real quick before we call it a break here, before we get on to our #1 show on the network? You got anything to say real quick?
Just can't wait for the season to start next Friday. 1 week away from tomorrow, and just pumped up.
And folks, by the way, Chris needs you, great WNBA fans. He needs your help. Next Friday, folks, on Halo Fish Vlog, he is going to be sending up his opening night WNBA vlog, folks. So we need some of you great WNBA fans, folks, to let us know on Twitter. Tweet to us at LASparks365 and say, we want you guys to make us a video of how pumped you guys are for the season. So this is our first little social media interaction with you folks here. To make a quick video, about 30, 60 minutes, folks. Just say how pumped you are for the season. You say how pumped you guys are for the season, and tweet it to us at LASparks365. We'll hopefully, Chris, put those videos into your blog on May 6th. So what do you think about the plug here for the channel?
Just great. Just can't wait. It's going to be an awesome vlog. It's been a long time since I've vlogged. I think I forgot what my last vlog was. I think it was...
Chris, your last vlog was the night where the Sparks were saved by Matty Johnson, and of course after that we have the infamous Hangout blooper reel.
Oh yeah, that.
So again, folks, we need your help. If you are a WNBA fan, I know we've got a few people out there from the Lynx and a few other people. WNBA fans, if you are watching us right now, we need your help for Chris's upcoming YouTube blog, folks. So send us a video between half a minute to a minute long. Get it to us, folks, at LASparks365. You will save your video, and you will get a spot, folks, in Chris's WNBA fan blog next Friday on Halo Fish Vlog. Okay, folks, we will take a break here when we come back. Tweets, IG photos, emails, Q&A. #1 show on Sports Fan is coming up next right here on the LA Sparks 365 Network.